Right, well, let me just quickly tweet out the links. Oh wow, it's changed apparently now. So it says a premium account on X is required in order to stream on the platform.
Right.
Cow, I ain't doing that.
What's wrong with Elon Musk, man?
They just recently changed that, I'm guessing, because obviously our last one was on.
Yeah, we haven't recorded in a minute,
just,
have we?
yeah, so this is just strictly on YouTube. So that's fun, but he's been messing up the account. I'll chat to. Let me see if it's because it's very weird. They just randomly change it. But he's messed up the account and he's messed up the not account. Sorry, he's messed up the app. The app used to be so good.
Yeah, it was. Do you remember when it had like circles and all that stuff?
Yep. And then they even had their own stories. Remember, they tried the whole story thing.
So fleets.
Yeah, fleets. It wasn't that great, but like you had to credit it. It didn't make it worse. It didn't make the app worse. Like people were using it. So
Elon Musk has ruined Twitter, boy.
it's all a money making app now. Even though it was making money before, it's all about maximizing the amount of money you can get, I guess. So yikes. Right. Ready?
Let's go.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Ringside Fracas. We're back after a bit of a hiatus, a bit of a summer holiday, while the Euros were going on. We're kind of enjoying that. And we were letting the boxing go, but there's been so much that's been happening in boxing while we've been away. We thought we might as well cover a few topics that I think in recent weeks have been a bit more controversial, or it's been the talk of the town. So we're heading over to the US side of things, and we're going to preview we're going to go over what's been going on over there and some of the things that we're going to have to start evaluating. But of course, when we talk boxing, I've got to have the regular on. I've got to have Dapper on. Dapper, how are you, bro?
I'm doing well, man. Good to be back. Enjoy the summer holiday off, but we're back. We're back. A lot to talk about. I know you lot have missed us, but we're here to feed the streets, man.
Yeah. Look, let's get straight into it. American boxing has been kind of a controversial, to say the least, where the future of the sport for them hasn't looked clear yet. We've had our picks in terms of who we think is going to be the future stars and who's going to be the future pay-per-view guys that are going to take over in the sport. But in the recent kind of weeks, we found out that it's not been as favorable as it should be for some people. But what we'll first do is we'll go to the recent fights. So obviously, Jaron Boots Ennis makes his Matchroom and the Zone debut by knocking out David Avanesyan in the 5th round to make also the first defense of his IBF welterweight title. Remember, he got upgraded to full champion after Terence Crawford got stripped after fighting Spence, and then not having a fight scheduled after that to defend his belt. So this was Ennis's first defense of his title. It was Matchroom debut, and it was a very good debut in terms of performance, but also how they sold the actual event. They did it. They went back to the roots. They went to Philly, his hometown, put it in the Wells Fargo Center. I think they did 14,000, so I think it was a sellout there or near sellout. And the atmosphere on the night looked really good. The crowd was up for it, and everyone was kind of getting that feeling around the broadcast team, around the team talking around it, that Ennis could be something for Matchroom USA to take forward. And it was a night that delivered. Ennis showed everything, in my opinion. He showed his brilliant offense. He showed his reflexes, his athleticism, his speed, his creative offense. The fact that he can pick out so many shots and have that many varied shots, where it's uppercuts, hooks, overhands, screw jabs, screw shots, screw hooks. He could do all of it. Obviously, some questions with his defense, which we'll get into in a bit, but took out a very tough and worn David Avanesyan, who's crafty, He can take a punch, but he's got the style that I thought that would have brought out the best out of Ennis, and it kind of did. And Avanesyan tested some questions. He posed a few questions for us to still go over. But I thought in general it was a decent performance, and it's something to. It was a good level to start at for Jaron Ennis, and something that I hope that he can now start to be a bit more active. I think people forgot that his last fight was over a year ago, so he needs to be a bit more active, especially when you're in the more prime years of your career. Dabo, how do you find this whole Jaron Ennis show?
Yeah, I think ultimately it was a success for the big things that they wanted to accomplish, right? So, like you mentioned, hometown fight, you know, compared to like a Shakur Stevenson, which we'll get onto, you want to kind of be able to show up when you're fighting at home, especially when you have a new contractual situation happening. So he's just side of the zone. And him and Eddie seemingly have really good chemistry together. So your first sort of showing definitely needs to be it needs to be able to grab the fans, right? And I think they successfully did that by stopping Avanesyan in 5 rounds, especially when you compare it to Crawford's 6 round knockout, albeit not the same sort of performance. It definitely wouldn't have helped if, for example, Ennis went the distance with Avanesyan, right? So good job for stopping Avanesyan. Obviously, some people are talking about Avanesyan only having 4 weeks to get ready for Ennis, but you can say the same thing about Ennis only having 4 weeks to get ready for Avanesyan. So I don't think that point really stands. But yeah, ultimately, definitely a success for Camp Ennis, for Team Ennis. In terms of the performance itself, Ennis looked sharp in the early rounds. He's got a very reactionary style. He depends on a lot of speed and a lot of combinations, which I like. But Avanesyan was game, man, and he didn't roll over, which I really appreciated. He did not roll over. He didn't go there to just make money. He wanted to win that fight. And there were times where because of a combination of maybe Ennis not respecting Avanesyan's power and Avanesyan's style as well. I believe Avanesyan was able to get off some really good shots on Ennis, and I guess that's another box we can say has been ticked because Ennis took those shots. You know, we've seen Avanesyan in there with some of our British level guys like Josh Kelly, and we've seen how that ended up, happening. You know, Kelly looked really sharp in the first 2 rounds, ended up losing because of Avanesyan's pressure and power. So yeah, good job, man. It was entertaining fight. Overall, decent card, I guess. But yeah, the main event definitely delivered, and I'm very intrigued as to where Eddie Hearn can take Ennis's career because it seems like there's going to be a shift now. There's an incoming shift with fighters, coming towards the end of their contractual obligation. So we're gonna see like who's gonna work with who now. Will Eddie Hearn get Shakur Stevenson? What does that mean for his current welterweight slash light welterweights and lightweights? Where would the Saudis come in to play in this as well? Because I saw Turkey El Sheikh tweet something about him wanting Crawford and Ennis to have a fight. So yeah, it's really interesting times. Well done to Ennis, and yeah, looking forward to see what he does next.
Yeah, perfectly well said. And just the point on the defense, because that's going to be a major topic for today, especially when we talk about Shakur Stevenson. We're also going to talk about his defense. But yeah, I think you're right with Jaron Ennis. I think I've watched a lot of Jaron Ennis fights, and he does have that susceptibility to getting hit by an overhand. He's got good composure. He can take a shot. I think if you look at the way Philly fighters are made, they're made to know how to take a shot, how to roll with it, how to be able to compose yourself and not really get frazzled by it. But I think you're right. Yeah, he kind of went into that fight not really respecting what was coming his way, willing to take whatever was going to come so that he could punch his way through. So I think some questions about his defense are a bit overstated in terms of people saying, "Oh, if he does this against this guy, he's going to get." I think when the level steps up, you'll see Jaron Ennis be a bit more tighter with his defense and be a bit more cautious. He seems switched on. His Twitter he tweeted after he said it felt like a rusty performance that I need to get back, make sure that I keep myself active and that
Good sign. Good sign.
yeah, and for a rusty performance, that's a good level because he completely battered Avanesyan. So
Yeah.
fair enough. If that's a rusty level, like yeah, and it's true. It's what I said. It's activity matters, and especially with someone like Jaron Ennis who's 26, bro. You're not near the prime of your career yet.
100%. 26. Wow, he's quite young.
Yeah, your peak years are going to be 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32. Those are going to be your peak athletic years.
Yeah.
Be active, get as many fights as you can, make the most money, and get the biggest performances that you can get.
Absolutely.
This whole PBC thing, because PBC do this a lot, where they sit guys out for 1 year and then they get them back in long because you ruin guys' careers like that. Look at Gary Russell Jr., elite prospect. His career didn't pan out the way people thought it would because of the inactivity. That was it. It was just the inactivity. But Ennis, hopefully with Matchroom, it seems like Matchroom have this idea of wanting to make him their not only pay-per-view star, but a flagship fight.
Yeah.
Someone that alongside Joshua can be the face of the company. Best way to do that, like I said, is keep him active. And if he's knocking over guys like Avanesyan, go ahead. Because to me, he's got what it takes to be a star. I think he's got the style. He's got the backing because he's from Philly. He's got that Philly backing that always helps, especially when you get the hometown backing. It helps to build stars and make their profile much more known and much more solid. And he's in a division where I feel like at 147, he's the top dog, and he's the top dog by far. Like if you look at the other champions, what's his name? You look at Mario Barrios, good fighter, not great. You look at Brian Norman Jr. on Top Rank, who just won the WBO belt. Not really that great. Decent. He's just decent. And then you've got Amantis Stanionis. Good fighter. That would be a good fight to make. But again, I think Ennis is just above these guys. And he
definitely pick up and collect all the belts if he chooses to stay at that weight class, to be fair. He is quite big for 147.
Yeah, which is what leads on to the next topic, is people asking whether or not he's the real deal. And I think it's still yet to be seen, because obviously he is a world champion, but if we do look at his resume, he's still yet to have that kind of name that establishes himself as a world champion. That name that doesn't have to be elite, but it's the guy that you knock over that everyone thinks, you know what, that makes you the best of the division. That makes you one of the best guys there. 100%. He's still yet to have that on his record.
Yeah.
But I think he's more than capable of getting it. And I think the way that they're looking at it is that they'd rather go for the unifications now than obviously go for the Crawford fight, because while you're at 147, you might as well do everything you can at that weight class rather than move up and then try to come back down. Because once you move up, you ain't going back down. So you might as well do what you can at 147 if it's still making the weight and if it's still okay for him. And I think, yeah, like I said, with all those other champions, I think he could go undisputed if he wanted to. Obviously, the politics won't allow it. That's the difference. Or he could wait at 147 if he can and see if guys like Teofimo Lopez, Ryan Garcia, Devin Haney come up, and then see if he can't have his shot at those guys, because I think he clears those guys, but the name value helps him so much with his star power. But the main thing people are asking, which I think the bigger question is whether or not he's the real deal. I think they're kind of looking at it in the sense of, is he an elite pound for pound talent? Obviously, right now, you can't really say he is because he hasn't really done much in the sport yet. But does he have the potential to do it? And obviously, that's why they're kind of posing this question of, if he fought Crawford next at 154, presuming Crawford beats Madrimov, what is going to happen? A lot of people are wondering, especially the defense that we were talking about comes into play as well. Let me ask you, Dapper, what do you think happens if Jaron Ennis meets Terence Crawford next?
It's really, really hard to say at this current moment, because I don't feel like I have the full picture of Ennis yet. I would love to see him in there with, like you said, not necessarily an elite fighter like a Crawford, but maybe someone that's a tier or two below, just so I know, like, okay, if the going gets tough, this is what Ennis is capable of. I don't think I've seen him there yet. He's very flashy and he looks very good when he's having his way. But what does he look like when maybe he's 2 rounds down? You know, these are the kind of questions that I have about Ennis, and I'll know. I'll have a bit of a better picture. But what I will say is, judging by their shared opponents, I think Crawford has a very, very methodical approach to how he fights, and I can see that causing Ennis some issues, as I believe Ennis does depend on his athleticism a lot in his fights. So he's very fast twitch, very reactionary, and he lets off his hands. He lets his hands go. Um, but when you're in there with a Terence Crawford, I feel like that's just one aspect. You need to have a proper, clear game plan, and you need at least a plan A, B, or C to get through someone like a Crawford. So as of now, Crawford is a lot more proven, and I think that will be a safer bet in terms of a winner. But we don't know enough about Ennis yet, and I would like to see him in there with some tougher opponents so I can get a clearer picture. So for now, I will still put my money on Crawford. But the thing is, Ennis is he's such a naturally bigger guy. He's a much bigger guy. He's rangy. He has the tools to be able to cause an upset there. But I just haven't seen anything to make me believe, okay, this is the guy to beat Crawford.
Yeah, perfectly well said. I mean, on the point of the defense and no, on the point of the shared opponent, when they both fought Avanesyan, obviously it's not a results-based game. They both knocked out Avanesyan. Obviously, Ennis did a bit quicker, but that's just nitpicking.
Yeah.
The way, if you look at the way they approached it, like you said, Crawford is more calculated and methodical, where he was using his jab a lot. He was trying to find the openings by breaking Avanesyan down, using the jab, finding the timings, finding the openings, and not forcing things, and not trying to open himself up too much, but still really landing on Avanesyan at the same time.
Capitalize on mistakes. Yeah.
This is what Crawford is. He opens you up, and then once those openings are there, he capitalizes on them and takes you up. The difference with Ennis was he kind of abandoned the jab because, like we said, he didn't really respect Avanesyan in that ring. So he just wanted to walk him down and force the stoppage rather than find the actual proper shot. Which against someone like Terence Crawford it could play well right into his hands, where you're throwing a lot. He finds that timing, he gets you, and he drops you. And you don't know what hit you.
Yeah.
That's
It's
he's really good at that, and Jaron could play to that factor. And like I said, Jaron's got issues with his defense where he does, because he's letting himself open up too much at times. He does get caught on these bigger shots, but I think his offense is very creative, and I think he would still give Terence Crawford a lot of problems because
agreed.
it's hard to find fighters like him who like are that athletic, that reactive, that explosive, but then can also have the variety with the offense the way they do. Obviously, he's got his obvious flaws in his defense, but his offense is really good. The way he breaks guys down, the way he like I said, the way he can vary the shots, the levels, how quick he can sit in the pocket and hit and then move out. So he does provide a lot of problems. But if we went off of fights next, I think Crawford could even stop him just because of the fact that you can't let Crawford get those big shots off. Because Crawford can win a decision, but if Crawford gets those big shots off, he's putting you down. And we've seen Crawford somehow at welterweight become the best version of himself, where he's just walked through guys and gotten 100% stoppages in all his fights at that weight class. He wasn't doing that at light welterweight. He came up to welterweight and he just dominated guys. It's the best version we've seen of him yet. I mean, there's still theories of whether or not Crawford goes up to 154, and that's an even better version than what we're seeing right now because of the fact that he doesn't have to cut.
The Madrimov fight is 154, right?
Yeah. It's for Madrimov's belt.
Crazy.
So imagine he goes there and he just stops Madrimov. Like you're just going up weight classes, stopping guys, and acting like weight doesn't really matter, which is insane. But that's what we're dealing with.
Yeah.
So,
That's a pound for pound great boy.
Yeah, that's the level of pound for pound. So if we're talking about Ennis being pound for pound, he's got the potential, 100%. I genuinely think that Jaron Ennis will win world titles at 147, which is already done, 154, 160, and even 168 super middleweight. And by the time he gets there, the talent pool is going to be a bit diverse because by the time he gets to super middleweight, Canelo's gone, David Benavidez will be gone, the top David Morrell will be gone, all the top guys will be gone by then. By the time he gets to middleweight, there's not really much people there at middleweight right now. It's only really probably Janibek, Hamza Shiraz, and that's it really. And then 154. 154 is the Shark division.
Yeah.
which is why I say if you want to know whether or not Jaron Ennis is the real deal, he either has to fight Stanionis next and drop him at 147, make that unification battle at welterweight, or move up to 154 and take on one of those top dogs because it's a sick division. You've got Terence Crawford fighting Madrimov on August the 3rd. A week later, literally just 7 days later, you've got what's his name? Bohochuk fighting Virgil Ortiz, which is an elite fight, which is a very good fight. It's the one, it probably has fight of the year written on it. You've also got Tim Zhu in the mix. You've got Sebastian Fendora in the mix. You've even got Errol Spence now, who's going
Yeah.
so many guys at 154 for him to fight that if he goes there and he can do something to them, that's where he makes a statement. That's
It reminds me of welterweight back in the day, boy. Do you remember when welterweight was shark infested?
yeah.
Yeah.
But now a lot of those guys have moved up, like Terence and Errol and Virgil. They've moved up. So follow them, move up, and then fight one of them and take the shine that they have. That's what he's really got to do. But he's quality, man. He's got a lot of potential, and I just think he needs that one fight. Which I think, like I said, what they're going to go for is the unification.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah, but he's someone to keep stock in because he seems like he wants to improve. He seems like he's in that part of his career where he realizes he needs to take everything seriously. He needs to fight more. He needs to, what's it called? Fight more actively, if that makes sense. And not taking these and then fighting the best guys that he possibly can. The only reason he was meant to fight Cody Crowley instead of Avanesyan is because Cody was his mandatory. I mean, Cody's not threatening, but he worked his way up to the welterweight division. But I say, bun it. If you can, make the Conor Benn fight.
Yeah.
Because if you need to build him as a star, you could do that as a throwaway fight. Because I think he absolutely cooks Ben. I think he stops
him. Yeah.
So you could just do that, and you could even do that in the UK if you wanted, just to build Jaron Ennis.
In the UK.
Yeah, look, Errol Spence came to UK to fight Kell Brook, so you could do the same thing for Ennis to come to UK to fight Conor Benn. Give Conor Benn his title shot.
I can't even lie. If I'm Eddie, just feed Conor Benn to him, man. Because Conor Benn is on his way out. I can't lie.
Yeah, exactly.
He was too tainted. I think he's done.
Yeah, exactly. So
drug cheat now. No one wants to.
Yeah. So
Egbon, looking like Rasta Jesus, bro. What are you saying?
What's good, boys?
And we got Jide joining us. Jide, how you been, bro?
I'm out, man. How are you, man?
We had a bit of hiatus, but there's a lot to cover. And we're just going through Jaron Ennis's performance. So and talking about whether or not he's the guy to be talking about. What was your takeaway from last week?
Boy, he did what I expected him to do, man. He's been out for like a year, so I feel like his performance had a bit of rust. But he did everything I expected him, man. He was brutal. He went in there, didn't respect Avanesyan's power, just stood in the pocket and just lit him up. So I can't fault his performance in that sense. Obviously, what I would say is he got hit a bit too much. You don't want to see that, you know what I mean? Like, especially when we now look forward, because this fight was a gauge of where my man is. So it's crazy because if you compare his performance to Crawford's performance, Crawford was much better. Crawford didn't get hit as much, although it went around more. Crawford actually slept Avanesyan. Do you know what I mean? Like
he slept him, right?
Slept him. It's different. But Crawford was also 37 years old. So if they fought, like everyone, like you don't get better with age. You just at that age, you just don't. So when will Father Time catch up to Crawford? And I feel like he's within this window, which is why I feel like Boots may be pushing for that fight as well. Because if he fights Bud, it wouldn't be as risky. It wouldn't take as many risks. I'll still edge it to Crawford, but the thing about ages, you just don't know when it will just come. You just don't know when Father Time will hit you. So, yeah, man, I think it was a great performance. The Philly fans loved it, packed out the arena. And, yeah, on to the next one, man. I can't wait to see his next fight.
Do you think his next move? What would you, if it's not the Crawford fight? What would you say should be his next fight that they
Fight
should?
Carly. Fight Carly. Just get that out of the way. So the
The
fight that was, huh?
the mandatory basically his
Yeah,
Cody.
yeah, yeah. The fight, yeah, yeah, yeah. The
I'm not
fight,
sure because he had a retina injury, so I'm not sure how feasible that is because obviously that's quite serious, and he's had quite a few issues as well in terms of him being in the ring, Cody Crowley. So I get what you're saying. It's just what I want Ennis to fight again at least once by the end of this year because he's been too inactive, if that makes sense.
yeah,
Right.
no, I get you, but who's out there? Welterweight right now is devoid of stars.
Stanionis. The only issue is Stanionis and Barrios are with PBC, so you'd have to, tread the waters and see what PBC are open to do with making a fight between them. Because there's rumors that Pacquiao might fight Barrios, which is going around, which is I don't know how that's even being
Probably
talked
gonna
about.
happen.
But yeah, so if Stanionis is there, the best money fight for him would be Jaron Ennis to make that unification. So he would have to reach out. They would have to reach out to PBC and see what the waters are like to be making this fight. Because I feel like that is a good fight. Stanionis is a decent fighter. I think
Yeah.
Ennis is a little above him, but beating him would be a world-class name to put on his record.
Yeah, I completely agree, but I'm just gauging it on what we've seen from the PBC.
Hmm.
I just don't see them giving Eddie someone to make his fight look better.
It's dependable though, because you're right in terms of making the fight look better. But when Riyadh season got involved, most of the PBC fighters got loaned to that August 3rd.
Yeah, it's the Riyadh season, but Boots isn't a Riyadh season fighter yet.
Could be. They could get involved and make that as a Riyadh season card.
Yeah. Fair, but
Especially if
I just don't see the PBC just doing that.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I think that we have to see how it goes. But
Gino's
there
got
is the idea of
PCC,
making Bud and Boots as well for Riyadh season. So
Yeah. What was that? Dapo?
I said you got PBC PTSD. You don't trust them, boy.
Do you?
No.
Bro, they ruined the greatest era of welterweight boxing. They ruined the greatest era of actually it's not just them, but they ruined one of the potentially most exciting lightweight eras. We never got fights we wanted. They ruined heavyweight. They ruined so many divisions. So it's not really PTSD. It's just I'm just living in their world, in their reality, you know.
I mean, yeah, I'd hope that whatever the next fight is for Jaron Ennis, it's a decent name, and that again keep him active. And I think they should keep him in Philly because I think make him a big hometown star like that, and then focus on trying to get him break into Las Vegas and becoming a mainstay.
No, facts. And the fans enjoyed it. There was no booing, no one leaving the arena early. You know what I mean? It done its thing, bro. And like I said, he packed out the arena the most since Marvin Hagler got in there. So he's clearly he's building a hometown support, and they'll get behind him. He's their fighter. So Eddie Hearn is doing the right thing in this promotion.
Yeah.
When your guy is good as well, it's helpful, boy.
Oh, it's very helpful, man. Yeah. If you have a guy that can fight, that's half the work.
Yeah.
And he's exciting as well. Hand speed, power. But he's a big boy. I don't know how long he's gonna stay in welterweight.
He's big. Pause.
Maxing out at middleweight.
This is becoming like the post-fight press conference when everyone started saying pause. That was a crazy night.
Eddie Hearn is dumb, bro. When he said no Diddy, I was crying, bro.
Speaking of guys leaving the main event before the main event's even finished, these last couple months, I'd say, for Shakur Stevenson haven't been the greatest months of his career, and it's something that I think he kind of should be looking forward to moving forward from. Obviously, he took on Artem Harutunian, again, a fight that when it was announced wasn't received well. That's kind of a given why wasn't received well. And then when the fight happened, again, loads of issues where he wasn't taking as many risks as you would expect him to do with that level of fighter. He won the fight comfortably. He won the fight quite comfortably, but again, the entertainment factor wasn't really there. You had Top Rank showing them fans leaving the arena before the
that's nasty, man.
last fight on the contract. That's why.
So
You ain't leaving with all that money and that belt. We're leaving with something. You know what I mean? We're leaving with something. We're ruining your reputation while you can't go out.
that's crazy.
And then obviously afterwards, the performance again, a kind of back-to-back performance where people were criticizing it. Again, another back-to-back Twitter rants from Shakur Stevenson, where he's atting everyone that's criticizing him, getting in, to calling them out, cussing out, Mason Cameron on their show, and then that devolving into whatever it's devolved into today. And not really receiving the criticism as well, which I think further impacts the performance because, again, that type of performance, if you're now doing all of this, it just leaves a much bitter taste in people's mouths. Pause. Jide, your thoughts on this whole Shakur stock evaluation? We've had stocks for quite a while, but what are you looking at, sir? You're the finance guy. What are you looking at?
Well, current Shakur stock, it's undervalued. I'll put it as undervalued. It's not overvalued, it's undervalued. And the reason why it's undervalued and I feel like people should look at possibly investing in is because of the narrative that's been formed. I completely agree with the concept. Not all bad publicity is good. Like not all publicity is good. Sorry, like you don't want bad publicity. Really and truly, you don't really want it. You don't want ESPN showing people leaving your fights. You don't want Cam and Mace, people relevant in the culture, the type of market you're trying to appeal to be telling you you're boring. You don't want them doing skits of them sleeping to your fights. You don't. There's a lot. There's a lot of things you do not want. However, although I don't like it because I'm not a fan of this Shakur that thinks he's bad, that's trying to get guys to crash out on podcasters. I don't like it. It makes me sick. However, I feel like he's finally understood. If he's going to fight the way he fights, he cannot be the loved guy. He can't be a good guy. He can't be a tank that can get away with doing shit. He can't. There's a lot of things he can't do. He has to be the villain. And this is a big if. If he embraces that, he'll be fine. If he embraces the role, fuck everyone, like he says, you lot watch me lose. None of your guys can ever beat me. He will do fine. The fight done 1.5 million on ESPN. Again, those aren't crazy numbers, but those are decent numbers.
Very good.
Those are very decent numbers. Those are the sort of numbers for someone who you're building up. Because I remember Terence Crawford when he was on with Bob Arum, he used to do like 2 million, 1.5, 2 million. And now we see where Bud is right now. Obviously, Shakur not as exciting as Terence. I'm not saying he is, but you could tell people want to see him fight. And another thing I feel like people need to understand is boxing isn't one style of fighting. And that's what's annoying me about a lot of boxing fans right now. I agree, we want to see excitement. And I agree, pure boxers can be a bit exciting. And I agree that Shakur could have taken a bit more risks to be a bit more exciting. But if everyone fought like William Zepeda, would the fight won't be the sweet science anymore. The sport won't be fun. There will be no such thing as everyone having different styles. There will be no such thing as saying, oh, how does this style work against this style? Oh, let's refine this style. Let's do this, let's do that, because everyone fights like William Zepeda. So I hate this idea that fans, mainly casual fans, are pushing that Shakur has to basically crash out and let himself get knocked out to excite fans. No, you don't have to do that. What I feel Shakur needs to do is stop looking at old man Floyd Mayweather. I feel like a lot of these pure boxers look at the old version of Floyd. And I will say, yes, the old version of Floyd is the most perfect example of a pure boxer. However, PBF exists. Floyd in his younger years in the lighter weights exist. He was more of a boxer puncher then. However, it still showed you when he bro, the guy will be going back throwing combinations. You'll be throwing shots at him, he'll be rolling his shoulder, countering you while you're throwing shots at him. Pernell Whitaker, another one who used to do stuff like that. James Toney used to counterpunch you coming forward. Like, I feel like a lot of these guys, they need to watch these fighters, and you don't have to copy the old Mayweather that took little risks. Because unfortunately, this isn't football. Football, you can play like Stoke and guys will still watch you. football, you can play like Real Madrid can sit back against Man City for 100 and whatever minutes and still have the biggest fan base in the world. In boxing, it's driven by casuals, and unfortunately, due to the promotion of Tank, so I have to give him a lot of credit. In those weights, guys just want to see you knock guys out. That's what they want to see. So Shakur, he has hand problems, doesn't have the power of Tank. So I feel like now, because of that, don't change your style. Don't have to become an idiot. Take a little bit more risks and play the villain role, and he will be fine. Like he beats Tank. I know everyone's saying, "Oh, we don't know now." We don't, bro. Nobody in that division judges distance better than Shakur. You might not like him. I get it. A lot of guys don't like him. They don't like his style, but he does not get hit. He doesn't get hit. You push him to the ropes, he will roll a few punches, slip to the side, and pop you in the face. He does not get hit. And Tank took him 5-6 rounds to figure out Frank Martin, who used to be a football player. The guy learned boxing late is not really a boxer like that. It took you that long to figure him out. The guy that was shook every time Tank threw a left hand. It took you 6 rounds to figure that guy out. Do that against Shakur and see what happens. Shakur's style is hell for a lot of guys. And funny enough, me talking about Zepeda, I feel like that's the style that will give people like Shakur the most problems. Because they throw punches in bunches. They don't care about getting hit back. They're going to smother you. They're going to smother their own work, but they're going to throw. And for example, we saw Nick Ball versus Raymond Ford. I'm not saying Raymond Ford is Shakur, but we saw Floyd Mayweather versus Marcus Maidana. Again, I feel like he won that fight, but enough people felt, wow, he gave Floyd work. So, listen, no style's invincible, but for the guys people are talking that they'll beat up Shakur, I feel like Shakur has the style to deal with him. So his stock right now, people are looking at him crazy. I see it's undervalued. If you want to jump on the Shakur train, this is the time to jump on it right now.
Pause. Like, big pause.
That's a pause.
No, but yeah, no, I agree with a lot of what you're saying. Is that's a Zepeda fight, and I just saw on Twitter now, the WBC have ordered that Shakur versus Zepeda as a WBC title. So August 20th, the purse bids. Obviously, the issue with that is Zepeda. I don't know if this is the first time. I need to search that up. But Zepeda is literally number one with every single sanctioning body. So he doesn't have to fight Shakur. He can literally, he's going to get ordered by all the other sanctioning bodies to fight their champions. He can fight whoever they want. And I think the way Oscar's obviously talking, he either wants Shakur to sign long term to him, then he'll make that fight, or he'll just get Zepeda to fight someone like Berinchik, for example, so that he can take that belt off of his hand. No, I agree with a lot of what you said. I think Shakur is someone that you can't still count out from the elite fights because I think like you said, his style gives a lot of people a lot of problems. I think one issue he has though is his feet take him too far away to counter, and he's not taking enough risks to counter. And I think that was his main issue when I was watching the Haratunian fight. He was too conservative. I think even he was walking forward, he was still too conservative. There's so many moments where Haratunian's missing and Shakur's not coming back with something. Whether that's because he's too far away, or whether that's because in his head sometimes taking that risk isn't worth it to him. I think that has to change. And on the most part, I think Shakur will change certain things about his how he go about fights and how many risks he does take. I think he'll rise to certain levels that people won't really understand. But like you said, in the big fights, we still need to see it. You can't count someone out just because they haven't fought the way you wanted them to fight. The Tank fight has to happen. It just has to. Like the Tank versus Haney had to happen. Haney versus Shakur had to happen. Tank versus Shakur has to happen. Like these fights have to happen. We can't accept from either fighter not having these fights. And Shakur's still up there. And I think you've got to give him that credit that, he hasn't fought the way we want. He doesn't take the risks that we want him to. But have we ever been arguing about the scoring of his fights? Have we ever thought he might have lost that, or he lost that couple rounds here? No, we thought he's won it quite comfortably most of his fights. So if you think he's bad, go and beat him. This is to boxers. If you think he's bad, go and take him on and smoke him.
Yeah, they know, man. I feel like fight fans are too tribal. Like and fight fans know as well. This reminds me, like, when your fans are making excuses for you not to fight someone, it's because they know.
Yeah.
They know. For years, Manny fans made excuses for Floyd not to fight Manny, and vice versa as well. For years.
Yeah.
And it's because guys know what it is. It's like you do not make excuses. When your guy is 100% sure thing, the fights, funny enough, tend to happen.
Yeah.
Frank Martin was called boring for a minute. The guy was trashed. He ducked Shakur. He didn't want to fight him. Everyone said, "Oh, he's not ready. He's bum." But when Tank made that fight in 5 seconds, Tyson Fury, he was giving Joshua 24-hour deadlines and doing all that nonsense. He made Chisora in 5 seconds. Like, guys know when there's a threat. It took him 2 years to fight Usyk. When there's a real threat, guys and their fans know, and they don't like it. They'll make excuses for you, and that's what's happening with Tank right now. If Tank wants, listen, Tank don't know me. I'm insignificant in his world. But for me to rate someone like that, he needs to fight an A+ fighter. I just need to see him in the ring with an A+ fighter just one time, and then I can evaluate. Okay, this is where you're at. Because right now, I don't know how good you are. I think I know how good you are, which is what's frustrating, but I really don't. Shakur, I don't know how good you are. I think I know how good you are, but I don't know. Haney, that's why I like Haney. Although Haney lost to Garcia, and in my opinion, lost to Loma, I feel like I know Haney's level. I feel like I know his limit. I feel like I can evaluate Haney properly, but he's probably the only one. Him and Loma are probably the only two I could truly evaluate. Teofimo, I don't know. I don't know. I know you're good at counterpunching, but since you've gone to 140, you dealt with Josh Taylor, that's great. But again, look at your last two fights. I don't know. I know you're weak against boxers. That's all I know about you. But at least I can say, okay, I know maybe that might be your limit. I don't know nothing about Tank. I don't know nothing about Shakur. And that's why we need to be, as fans, we don't do it enough. We need to stick it on these guys and pressure them to make these fights happen.
One of the mistakes I think Shakur made was leaving Top Rank. I feel like obviously Top Rank has its own issues, whether or not when it comes to promoting, and whether or not you agree that he done a great job of promoting Shakur perfectly or not. But Top Rank hold two of the belts, Loma and Barinchik. And Loma and Barinchik obviously are never going to fight each other because they're Ukrainian, and there's that thing. So you could literally set a deal with Top Rank and say, look, I want to fight them two, and I'll take their belts, and there'll be big fights. And they probably would have done it. If you committed to them, they probably would have done it. And that contract that they offered him, 5 fights for 15 million, it's not bad. 3 million a fight guarantee for someone like Shakur is a good amount. It's a very good amount to make 3 million, and that's the minimum. If he goes on to pay-per-view or whatever, obviously then they'll pay him more. But now it's kind of, there's a question mark over Shakur in terms of his business approach, in terms of where does he go, who would he sign with, and if he goes with free agent, what's going to happen, and how is he going to get these next fights done for him, which I think is going to be very problematic because he's not bankable just yet. He's not a bankable star. So who's going to take that risk of signing him and then paying for the fights that they want to see? Dapo, what's the evaluation looking like?
I'm buying the dip, man. You lot, when Shakur beats you, your guys, don't come over here. Stay there. Listen, I echo a lot of things that Jide says. I'm not going to repeat too much. I agree with a lot of the points he made. One thing I'll also say is we've seen this before, right? Where an elite fighter is being undervalued over a not so great performance, and they go ahead and they go on to do really big things in the division. For example, Usyk, when he fought Chisora and he fought the guy before him, I can't remember his name, Chaz Witherspoon, whatever. A lot of people complained about his performance at the time, and look who he's gone on to beat. So I feel like a lot of boxing fans need to have the ability to look at fights as a whole and not based on like one performance. And this performance talking about, he didn't lose the fight. Do you know what I'm saying? I was saying this to you earlier, Naeem. He didn't lose rounds. He didn't lose the fight. Given, I understand that it's not entertaining for some people because he's not knocking the fighter down or crashing out in the ring. I understand. But for me, I still find the sweet science entertaining. Like I have the eye to see the kind of things he's doing, how he's controlling the distance, his punch selection, how he's making sure that his opponent can't get any offense on him. These things still matter because when the going gets tough, that's when they'll really shine through. They may look insignificant in fights like these, but when you now put him in there with a Tank, and you're wondering why isn't Tank able to land his right hand, or he can't? Why is Tank not able to land this shot on this guy? You then look at these fights and see the other opponents had the same problem. It's just like you guys didn't pay attention because you found it boring. Like this stuff happens all the time. So yeah, I think he's a great fighter. I understand the criticisms. I want him. I think it's because he's young. Like I think Shakur's 26. He's still a young guy. So you have to give him a little bit of grace because these boxers, they work tirelessly, to perform in the ring. So once you do get in the ring and people are calling your fight boring, people are making skits about how boring your fight is, something that you give your life to. It can't be easy. Like nobody's perfect, and he's not a robot. So sometimes when he crashes out on Twitter and stuff, I understand. But at the same time, he does need to learn how to he needs to accept that this is the world he lives in. People will always criticize you for something when you're in the public eye. He needs to accept that and control himself a little bit more, and just let his performance do the talking. Like he said, he shouldn't. It's his career. Do you understand? He shouldn't care to an extent what these people think. But at the same time, there's no need to crash out and shout over the hills about how you don't care and this and that. Just let your performance speak. And yeah, if people are underestimating you because you're having boring fights, that's perfect. Like you said, Niam, and get in there with the Tank. Like if you guys think he's so rubbish and you can beat him, I had Teofimo say that, it went 12 rounds and that's fine. Get in the ring with him fighting. Let's find out. Because they will look worse if they lose to him. Do you understand? You lost to the boring guy. So yeah, I just echo what you guys say, and I'm buying the stocks. He hasn't, I haven't deranked him because of these performances. I still think he's a great fighter, and I would love to see him in there with some of the bigger names.
Yeah, perfectly well summed up. But I think for the two fighters that we've been talking about, Jaron Ennis and Shakur Stevenson, I think we can all agree that they are going to be the next staples for American boxing and world boxing, even that these next couple years of their careers, we might see the biggest fights come out of them. We might see some performances that might change their legacies forever in a good way or a bad way. So it'll be interesting to see what the two can do, which is why it was good to talk about them today, that we kind of got into sort of what to expect from the two of them and hopefully what we can expect to see from the future. Speaking of the future, just quickly before we end the show, we'll just do a quick preview of the Saturday's fights. The fight that you guys might cook me, but the fight that I'm looking forward to most was obviously the Japanese card, which I'll get onto. But the fight that I'm quite intrigued by, you might not like it, Jake Paul versus Mike Perry. That's intriguing to me. I don't think it's going to be like high level boxing, of course, but I'm wondering, how does Jake Paul deal with someone that's 30?
Oh, brother, this guy stinks.
Like I'm intrigued by this fight. It's better than anything KSI's done. That's all I'm saying. I'm still intrigued by it.
I hear you, but these misfit boxing shit. Not that I'm not
over it, bro.
I'm not saying that I'm above it. I don't want to be that guy in it, but I'm not. I don't care enough to how good these guys are. I only know. Do you know what I mean? I only know Jake can fight. I don't know about this other guy. I have no idea.
Mike Perry was in UFC.
I don't know what
he did bare knuckle boxing and beat MVP, Michael Venom Page.
Oh, sorry. Fairs.
He's a 5-0 bare knuckle boxer.
Saturday, I don't think I've got much going on. I'll probably watch the fight. But I'm just saying,
that's what I'm saying. I'm intrigued.
I'm just saying I'm not gonna be like. I don't know these guys, bro.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
But that's what I'm intrigued. I'm just like, obviously, we were meant to get that shit show with Mike Tyson, and that got postponed.
I hope that gets cancelled. I'm happy.
I'm hoping as well. It's so dumb that a 56-year-old is being licensed to fight, but not only that, he had a heart problem or whatever it was, and then they still don't think to cancel the whole event and let the guy just chill. But that fight's intriguing. But I think the main thing that people should be looking forward to is In Britain, we've got the Magnificent Seven card. So Nathan Heaney's taking on Brad Pauls again to defend his British middleweight title. And there's a couple other fights on it. It got kind of ruined through injuries and whatnot. Like, for example, David Adelaide's fight is off because David Adelaide's injured. There's also a super bantamweight fight that's really quite good. That's off. But if on a Saturday, around 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. you're free, you've got Sky Sports, turn it on, watch the
Definitely,
Japanese
man. Boy, David Adelaide, yeah, that guy is not it, man. But you know what?
He ain't fighting. He ain't fighting. So
he's not fighting. All right, cool.
he got injured. He was meant to fight, but he got injured recently, so he was off the card. So
right,
there's that. But
like,
you know,
I can't lie. I used to think, listen, you're a bad gene, man. I was like, this guy, man, he can.
I think Itama could knock him out.
Bro, Itama will clean him.
Knock him out, yeah.
Moses will clean him. But listen, we'll claim Moses as well, man. I don't think he's a Yoruba, but we'll claim him. We'll claim him.
But also to look forward to, like I said, if you've got Sky Sports, at around 10 a.m. on a Saturday till 12 p.m., you've got the Japanese boxing card, which is really good. I feel like, again, Japanese boxing and all of that gets a kind of underlooked because it's the lighter weights. But you've got Junto Nakatani defending his WBC bantamweight title. Junto is sick, man. Like, there's no other way to say it. He's sick.
Yeah.
Just it's crazy the amount of weight classes he can go through, and he'll win divisions. You've also got what's his name? You've got, is it Inoue? No, it was Tanaka. That's it. You've got Tanaka versus Rodriguez. And if you like Bam Rodriguez, Bam, when he fought, he had his big fight and he won. He looked sick. Then Tanaka's the other piece of the puzzle at that weight class. And if you want to see how he looks and how he might match against Jesse Bam Rodriguez, then I'd suggest watch that, because Kosei Tanaka, he's a full-weight world champion. He's really good. You've also got then Rico Kano versus Olasquaga. That's another world title. And then the headline, which is crazy, you've got 3 world title fights, but the headlining fight is Tenshin Nasukawa in an 8-rounder fight. So it's insane that a guy who's not yet near levels in terms of his world title, he's the headliner, because Tenshin, he's a superstar. A lot of you will remember him when he cried against Floyd Mayweather in that exhibition fight. But
that guy.
But if you watch his fights, he is cold. He is really good. Like, he's
under. Flog him like that.
I don't know. I didn't set up the thing. He retired from kickboxing in 2022, and he retired as the pound for pound #1 kickboxer on the planet. He then switched over to boxing, and he's like 4-0. And in his 5th fight, he's already taking on a #4 world ranked fighter. So they're moving him up the levels, and his social media following is insane. The guy's got like 1 million subscribers on YouTube. He's got over 1 million followers on Instagram. Like, he's a big star, and he can actually win a world title. I feel like he's going to be the next star coming out of Japan. He already is a star, but in boxing as well. So that's something to look forward to on Saturday, especially if you've got time in the morning or afternoon. Just switch that on and have a look at them, because there's some good fights to watch, and some Japanese boxing is booming, man. Make sure you're part of it, because lots of fights to look forward to. I think tomorrow, today is Monday, right? Yeah, tomorrow they're going to announce Inoue's next fight in September. So watch out for that announcement as well. So Japanese boxing booming, man. I know I might sound like a nerd like saying this, but they put on some really good fights, and they got some stars that really stand out there. So
yeah, they run the lighter weights. So
it's booming. Like, the business there is booming. Like, Inoue especially is doing stuff in terms of money that no one's ever done in Japan, other than Mike Tyson when he went there once. So it's really exciting, and obviously it's a bit slow boxing. It is going through the groove. I think next week we've got Joyce versus Chisora to look forward to. Obviously yesterday you had Chisora versus Delivery Driver, which is always great to have.
That guy is bro. It's dumb. It's actually dumb, man. Pugilist dementia is loading for him.
The whole Reform UK thing, the MAGA thing,
his brain cells are fried. He's completely fried, and man are licensing him to box. Like, you can tell he's ill. Like, there's not much I can say. Like,
no, you're right.
This is why the sports gets villainized and demonized. you see all these ex-fighters and you see how fucked they all are. And
Yeah.
it's all because they fought way past when they should have. You should not be licensing someone like Del Boy.
Yeah.
But anyway.
And then hopefully in 2 weeks on August the 3rd, the big fight, the Crawford versus Madrimov card, which also has Bakoli versus Anderson. It's also got the battle of the fat heavyweights.
Card, man.
Ruiz versus Miller, which I think if someone gets knocked down, it'll probably end up breaking the ring. And then the week after, you got Virgil Ortiz taking on Sergey Bohachuk, which again I think is a fucking elite fight. That's a sick fight. So got a good schedule coming up soon. And then obviously September 21st, the fight that we can all look forward to, AJ versus Dubois. That's going to be a really good fight. Well, obviously when we get closer to the fight, we'll talk more in detail about it. But yeah, that's our take for today. Make sure you follow us on Twitter at Ringside Fracas. And make sure you follow us on Instagram at Ringside Fracas. And if you're listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, give us 5 stars. And if you're watching on YouTube, please click subscribe, like, comment, and share the video. And we'll see you next week. Peace.
Peace out.